Hey, Boom Gang. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. What's going on? How is everybody? Make sure to hit the thumbs up for me. If you're new here, welcome. Subscribe, hit the notifications to all, so you always be notified every time I go live, post a video, and do all of the things. Okay. Good morning and welcome. Happy Sunday. As soon as the music finishes, as soon as the intro, one of you guys sent me a request, and we are going to do it a little later. Let's get into this now, and then we'll do the request. But I promised one of Bougie Gang who sent me a request, sent me a video that she wanted to see, like she wanted to do a throwback. And I said, sure, why not? So, okay. Just that easy, just that simple. Hey guys, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. In front of us, we have Mayor Latoya Cantrell. Now, the people behind her, don't worry about that. They were there. They are not, this is the gentleman in question right here, Mr. Jeffery Vappie. I don't know what we're going to get into the indictment. Any of your questions you might have, we're going to get into it. Mayor Latoya husband passed away a couple of years ago. Okay. And she has been linked to her security detail, the head of her security detail, with the secret lover situation. Okay. Last year, there was an indictment for Jeffery Vappie. Basically, my understanding from because it was really almost last year. It was last year, like in July, when he was indicted. And basically, it was almost like time and accounting. So any of my HR people, basically, where the investigation kind of started a little bit was I wouldn't say his exorbitant salary, but the amount of money Mr. Vappie was making in overtime, when this overtime is linked to the mayor. Now, is that a problem if the mayor needs security? No. But if it's being alleged that there is a secret lover situation, that is a problem, and basically putting time on the clock when really I was going to say something that rhymes, but I'm going to try to keep this very cute. It might have been time on the okay, we're going to still keep it a little sassy, but it wasn't. Okay, you guys are following me. And that is a no. Let me read to you guys something, and then I got there was a full press conference explaining I believe it's 18 count federal indictment specifically to Miss Cantrell and Mr. Vappie. He was already indicted a year ago, but there has been a superseding indictment now to include the mayor. And it was interesting a year ago, because obviously she would have had to be under investigation, because if everything that they were alleging was true, he couldn't have necessarily done it alone because she was his boss. Okay. Hello. So if the boss approved it, well, it was obvious that she had to be included in the indictment. You know what I'm saying? So, baby. All right. Some of you guys might have seen this before, but let me show you guys this. This was the picture that kicked off kind of dun dun dun. Is there something going on between the mayor and the head of her security? Because it was giving just a little too much. And I think upon investigation, things got very, very interesting. And some truths were found, okay? Or some questions were had. Let me read this to you guys real quick. This was last year. Hold on. This was last year. And I think we talked about this last year. This was July 2024 when only he was indicted. U.S. Attorney Dwayne Evans announced that Jeffrey Paul Vappie II, 52, resident of New Orleans, was indicted today on 7 counts of wire fraud in violation of Title 18 United States Code Section 1343 for perpetrating a scheme to defraud New Orleans Police Department. Vappie was additionally indicted for making false statements to agents with the Federal Bureau of Investigations in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code 1001A2. According to the indictment, Vappie was a New Orleans Police Department officer from April 1997 to June 2024. Vappie was assigned to serve as a member of the Executive Protection Unit responsible for providing personal protection for the mayor of the city of New Orleans. At least as early as November 2021, Vappie, a public official one, which we know who that is, that's Miss Cantrell, developed and carried on a personal and romantic relationship. Vappie attempted to disguise the relationship by making his interactions with public official one appear related to Vappie's duties and responsibilities as a member of EPU. In doing so, Vappie submitted false time cards. And it's serious. I mean, time cards will get you fired. False time cards can get you jail time because it is stealing, period, whether it's public funds, company funds. When you are submitting false time, that is a theft, right? So public officials, baby girl, they're going to drag you. In doing so, Vappie submitted false time cards to NOPD. Also, did I mention he's married? Okay. She was married too, but her husband died of a heart attack a couple of years ago. In doing so, Vappie submitted false time cards to NOPD in which he claimed to be working. In fact, he was engaged in personal activities, including carrying on a personal and romantic relationship with public official one. This is in July of last year. They were not announcing who public official one was, but baby, what a difference a year makes, okay? Vappie took other steps to further conceal the scheme to defraud. For example, among these personal activities, Vappie spent substantial time inside the apartment owned by the city of New Orleans to which public official had access. So there is a apartment in the French Quarter, y'all. He was there. Additionally, he ate meals and consumed alcohol with public official one. It looks like they like old fashions. It looks like they like old fashions. I forgot what the other drink was that they enjoyed. Oh, Stella. Girl, they like some Stella and they like some old fashions, okay? Vappie also traveled on purported work-related trips with official one, paid for by the city of New Orleans. Vappie and public official one exchanged. Thank you so much, JMM. I appreciate you. I'm going to click on it as soon as I finish this and we'll see who got gifted. If you got gifted, go ahead and put your hand up. This exchange, I lost my place. Okay. Vappie and public official one exchanged personal and romantic messages and photographs via encrypted instant messaging application to avoid detection and continue their relationship. Their exchange of messages and photographs occurred as Vappie continued to claim only a professional, keep it professional, relationship with public official one and continued to serve as a member of EPU. Near the conclusion of an New Orleans PD administrative investigation into the alleged wrongdoing, Vappie attended to influence the interim superintendent of New Orleans PD into exonerating him. During the interview with FBI agents, Vappie's residence on July 14th, 2023, Vappie made several false statements, including Vappie did not have and never had a physical romantic relationship with public official one, that Vappie had never kissed public official one, and that Vappie never told public official one he loved public official one. For each count of wire fraud, Vappie faces 20 years in prison, up to 3 years supervised release, up to 250,000 in fines, and $100 mandatory assessment fee for false statements. Did they say it was 7 counts? So 7 times 20 is 140. Oh, and 7 times 250,000 is like 1.75 million. And let's not forget the $100. That's a lot of money. Okay. For the false statements count, Vappie faces up to 5 years in prison, up to 3 years of supervised release, up to 250,000 fine, and $100 mandatory assessment. U.S. Attorney Evans reiterated that an indictment is merely a charge and that guilt of the defendant must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. The U.S. Attorney Evans praised the work of the FBI in investigating this matter and expressed the appreciation and support by the city of New Orleans of Inspector General and Metropolitan Crime Commission, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Jordan Ginsburg, Chief of Public Integrity Unit, and Nicholas D. Moses of the Financial Crimes Unit and Healthcare Coordinator are in charge of prosecution. Okay. Now, fast forward 1 year. Let's go here. This is now August 2025. Okay. These are the press releases out of the Eastern District of Louisiana for the United States Attorney's Office. And shall I read? Okay. August 15th, which was when? 2 days ago, y'all. This is shocking. Okay. Acting U.S. Attorney Michael M. Simpson. Look at the difference. So when this was a year ago, it was U.S. Attorney Dwayne Evans. Okay. So change in office. Okay. And of course, we did have a change in the White House, and that dictates, just like Damian Williams in New York. A lot of these names will change as presidential administration changes, because some of these people are, I think most of these U.S. attorneys are presidential appointees. So let's get into this. August 15th, 2025. Michael Simpson announced that Latoya Cantrell, 53, and Jeffery Vappie, 52, both residents of New Orleans, were charged in superseding indictments. So the original indictment of Jeffrey a year ago, because I noticed his court date wasn't going to be till 2026. I guess they were like, okay. It's no speedy trial here, because his on his docket, the court date wasn't going to happen till like January 26th. So now we're seeing a superseding indictment. So it's the same indictment, same case number, but now they have added, rather than public official one, it is now been alleged and tagged specifically to Ms. Cantrell. Announced that Latoya Cantrell, 53, current sitting mayor, and Jeffery Vappie, 52, both residents of New Orleans, were charged in superseding indictment today on federal charges concerning wire fraud and obstruction of justice. Okay, girl. Cantrell and Vappie were both charged in a conspiracy to commit wire fraud in violation of Title 18, United States Code 371, as well as conspiracy to obstruct justice in violation with Title 18, Section 151(2)K. Vappie is also charged with 12 counts of wire fraud is some time cards. Every time card you submit with false time is going to get you more time. And Cantrell is charged with 6 of those wire fraud counts. If she sent an email approving his time or signing his sheet, baby, which it was probably all electronic, but if her administrator could have unknowingly approved, but as long as they're cooperating, they didn't have anything to do with it, that would not fall back on them. But if Vappie in any way sent emails authorizing, confirming, validating anything, I'm sure that can all be used against her. Vappie is charged, especially because they're the ones who are having the relationship. Vappie is charged with making false statements to the FBI in violation of Title 18, Section 1001. Cantrell is charged with 1 count of obstruction of justice in violation of Title 18, Section 1512 C1, and 2 counts of making false declarations before a grand jury, Title 18, Section 1623. According to the allegations contained in the superseding indictment, while Cantrell was mayor of New Orleans and Vappie was a New Orleans Police Department officer and a member of the executive protection team, Cantrell and Vappie developed a personal, intimate relationship in early October 2021. That might be before her husband passed. Hold on a second, girl. Let me check the receipt. Hold on a second. When did Sir pass? Hold on a second. Let me look at my notes. Just a second. Jason Cantrell. Is that 2023? So okay, but affair on both sides. Because if this started up in 2021 and her husband passed in 2023, okay. This is Mr. Cantrell, by the way. Let me show you guys this. Y'all see that? She looked happy. New Orleans City Councilwoman Latoya Cantrell Wright enjoys city's first dinner and Blanc with her husband, Jason Cantrell. March 20, 2013, Port of New Orleans, Jason Cantrell, husband of Latoya Cantrell, has died. The city announced in a news release August 14th, 2023. Okay. But they say this started up. When did they say this started? Baby, October 2021. And he died of a heart attack. Okay. Okay, let's finish up. As of October 2021, from that time, Vappie's retirement in June of 2024, they embarked on a scheme to defraud the city of New Orleans and New Orleans Police Department by exploiting Vappie's job and Cantrell's authority as mayor to have the city and NOPD pay Vappie's salary and expenses during times Vappie claimed to be on duty, but he was actually engaged in personal activities, often with Cantrell. The allegations contained in the superseding indictment, which I do have, describe that many steps that Cantrell and Vappie took to hide their scheme and perpetuate their continued fraud, including using secure messaging platform WhatsApp to exchange 15,000 messages, pictures, audio clips in an 8-month period, intimidating subordinates, harassing a citizen, lying to colleagues and associates, deleting evidence, making false statements to the FBI, giving the grand jury an affidavit signed under oath and penalty of perjury that contained numerous false statements, and ultimately committing perjury before the federal grand jury, all for the purposes of distracting and impeding inquiries and investigations, including a federal grand jury investigation. The superseding indictment alleges Cantrell and Vappie perpetuated their scheme both in New Orleans and during out of state trips. I wonder if that could include trafficking too, because trafficking is transporting somebody for sexual purposes. And I'm just saying, I mean, girl, we've heard so much this summer. I don't know. I'm not trying to pile on to Miss Latoya at all, but interesting, right? Okay, let me stick with the script. Superseding indictment alleges that Cantrell and Vappie perpetuated their scheme both in New Orleans and during out-of-state trips. In both instances, because she is a superior, she is his boss in a way. Vappie's activities while claiming to be on duty and conspicuously different than any other member of the Executive Protection Unit, the EPU. While in New Orleans, they treated a city owned apartment on in the Pontabla, excuse me, as a personal shared residence and coordinated to spend time together there, engaging in personal activities while Vappie claimed to be on duty for EPU and was paid to be doing his job. Cantrell occasionally canceled scheduled work events to facilitate personal and intimate interactions with Vappie in the Pontalba apartment. The superseding indictment also alleges that Cantrell and Vappie arranged for Vappie to accompany Cantrell on at least 14 domestic and international trips to maximize their time together and engage in personal activities. In their private text messages, Cantrell characterized trips with Vappie as times when we are truly alone, and that spoils me the most. These trips include trips to San Francisco, which Vappie and Cantrell decided to extend a day so they could visit a series of Napa Valley wineries while Vappie was wine tasting. And April 9th, 2022, he claimed to work and was paid for working a 15-hour day. In August 2020, meanwhile, her husband was still alive. In August 2022, Cantrell said she would make it happen to have Vappie accompany her on a 3-day Washington, D.C. trip that they agreed that they needed shortly after they returned. Vappie described the trip to Cantrell as another leg on our journey, as he declared his love for her and their physical relationship. In total, the city of New Orleans paid over $70,000 for Vappie's travel on these trips. When asked about her reason for bringing members of the EPU with her on out of state trips, a practice Cantrell began about 5 months after Vappie joined the EPU, she justified it as a pivot due to COVID and a matter of safety. At the time, however, she continued to take out of state trips without protection. In fact, on the same day she gave one such statement, she canceled a work trip to Miami and traveled alone by plane, then bus, and then ferry to the island of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts to spend time with Vappie while he attended a conference for the city of New Orleans. Girl, she went on plane, bus, and ferry to get to Mr. Vappie. He was on a work trip in Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts to spend time with Vappie while he was attending a conference for the city of New Orleans related to his position and the Hanno Board of Commissioners, a position to which Cantrell appointed him, baby. And if he was shown favor over others because of their personal relationship, and someone else may have really deserved it, he may have been deserving of the position, but it's hard to determine that if you're sleeping with the influencer. the position to which Cantrell appointed him a few months earlier. On other occasions, when Vappie was unavailable to accompany Cantrell on a trip, Cantrell decided not to take another member of the EPU. The superseding indictment alleges that both Vappie and Cantrell were aware their conduct broke criminal laws. For instance, April 2022, an associate told Cantrell explicitly in multiple text messages that spending public funds and using public resources for her personal relationship was a felony. When Cantrell and Vappie learned that the news media was investigating their time together in the Pontalba, they agreed to be straight and together. Be straight and together. Days after the first news stories broke in November of 2022, Vappie conducted numerous online searches in New Orleans area attorney who specializes in the practice of criminal law, and he searched WhatsApp security features, but the defendant's wire fraud schemes nevertheless continued. Vappie's retirement in June of 2024, until Vappie's retirement in June of 2024. As alleged in the superseding document in July of 2023, the grand jury issued subpoenas to both Vappie and Cantrell, compelling the production of records. The FBI interviewed Vappie during the interview. Vappie lied about the nature and the circumstances of his relationship. In response to the subpoena, Cantrell produced a selection of responsive records, but none of the over 15,000 WhatsApp messages she exchanged with Vappie. Cantrell also created an affidavit sworn under oath, and she had activated to a feature that automatically deleted messages in 2021. Cantrell submitted a screenshot of her iPhone showing WhatsApp messages were set to delete in 24 hours. In fact, Cantrell did not turn on the feature until December 26 of 2022, roughly 1 month after the news media began speculating on her conduct. Vappie conducted online searches concerning WhatsApp and security level, and by which time several people had warned Vappie and Cantrell that their conduct was illegal. This disappearing message feature, moreover, only applied to new messages during roughly the same period. Cantrell also manually deleted thousands of her prior WhatsApp messages with Vappie, as alleged. Even at the time Cantrell responded to the grand jury subpoena, she still possessed more than 50 pictures, including screenshots of correspondence with Vappie that were responsive to the subpoena, but which she nevertheless concealed from the grand jury. The superseding indictment further alleges that Vappie and Cantrell continued their pattern of obstruction through the rest of 2023 and 2024. This included improperly pressuring the interim superintendent of NOPD to overrule findings of an internal investigation into Vappie's conduct. When the interim superintendent did not heed the directive, Cantrell ordered the interim superintendent to nevertheless reassign Vappie back to her protection detail. Months later, in a meeting Vappie attended, Cantrell informed the interim superintendent that the interim superintendent would be replaced. Similarly, when a private citizen took a picture of Cantrell and Vappie together in public, dining and consuming alcohol al fresco, while Vappie reported to be on duty that day, Cantrell obtained non-public information about the citizen, filed a police report, and sought a restraining order against that citizen. And this was that picture. Dining al fresco, consuming alcohol. Okay? Okay. All right, let's get back. We're almost done with that. Baby, she filed a police report, got a restraining order. She was mad. Y'all, she was mad. Let me read that again. Okay. Similarly, when a private citizen took a picture of Cantrell and Vappie together in public, dining and consuming alcohol al fresco, while Vappie reported to be on duty. Cantrell obtained a non-public information about the citizen. So she found out who the citizen was. She probably did some sort of background check, and then she filed a police report on them and sought a restraining order. Meanwhile, you were out dining in public al fresco, consuming alcohol, and this man is supposed to be on duty. So there should be nothing private about this interaction because he's on public duty. He's a police officer. You're the mayor, and he's supposed to be on duty. So both of you were not off the clock in theory, right? So she looks smitten and he looks happy. I don't know why he turned. This is the picture that really did them in. Anyway, okay. Acting U.S. Attorney Simpson reiterated that an indictment is merely a charge and that guilt of the defendants must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. If they are convicted of a conspiracy to commit wire fraud, Cantrell and Vappie each faces up to 5 years in prison and up to 3 years supervised release for each count of wire fraud. Cantrell and Vappie each face up to 20 years in prison and up to 3 years supervised release. For the conspiracy to obstruct justice, Cantrell and Vappie each faces 20 years in prison and up to 3 years supervised release. And false statements to the FBI face up to 5 years and up to 3 years supervised release. And each obstruction of justice count, Cantrell faces up to 20 years in prison and faces 20 years supervised release. For each count of false statements to a grand jury, 5 years in prison, 3 years supervised release. For each count, both defendants face fines of up each count. Each defendant faces up to $250,000 fine. She has 18 counts, right? Does he have? It went over my head how many he has. I think she has 18. He had like 11 or something. They're in the millions of dollars worth of fines if they were to be found out, if they were to be found guilty, put it this way. Unbelievable. For each count, both defendant faces up to $250,000 and don't forget the $100 now, mandatory special assessment fee. Okay. Acting U.S. Attorney Simpson praised the work of the FBI and et cetera, et cetera. You can see on your screen. We'll just, for the sake of time. Okay. Now let's get into this real quick. This particular video right here, Ann Brode, she, I think, is the one who caught the picture. And let's get into it, okay?
Former neighbors in the Pontalba was already suing her in federal court for civil rights violations. And Brode claims the mayor improperly accessed and published her confidential information. And now those claims have popped up in Cantrell's federal indictment. Amelia Strahan reports.
The situation between the woman who took this infamous photo and Mayor Latoya Cantrell was mentioned.
She probably was like, oh, okay, look, they just talked about that on the news, and look who's outside on the patio having a drink with Boo.
About half a dozen times in her indictment.
She let me know where she was, and she said, wow.
And for Ann Brode's attorney, Justin Schmidt, it reaffirms claims made in their own lawsuit against the mayor about a year ago.
This was a confirmation to what we had suspected all along, and it kind of gave a few more breadcrumbs.
Last May, Brode snapped a photo of Cantrell and Jeffery Vappie eating lunch together in the quarter while he was on the clock as her bodyguard. The photo quickly sparked a bitter legal battle between Brode and Cantrell. When the photo made it to media outlets, the mayor went to police and attempted to file a restraining order.
Wait, what did that say?
Made it to media outlets. The mayor went to police and attempted.
Okay, on 4/7/24, the defendant aggressively photographed and harassed me while having lunch on a restaurant balcony. The defendant went out of her way to be certain I felt her presence and to notice that she was capturing countless photos of me. The defendant then proceeded to the street to find my vehicle where she captured additional probably
to file a restraining. Quarter,
Girl.
Bro filed a federal lawsuit claiming the mayor published her social security number, an old driver's license photo, and a prior domestic violence arrest that was expunged after Bro was deemed the victim.
When we initially
See how when you tell someone's truth and they get mad and then they want to drag you.
filed the lawsuit, we weren't sure exactly how the information came about.
Friday's federal indictment of Cantrell, which centers around her relationship with Vappie, doesn't list Bro by name, but alleges the mayor, quote, abused her public position to seek non-public information in support of and to obtain a temporary restraining order against a New Orleans resident who photographed and shared images of Cantrell and Vappie dining and consuming alcohol together. But how Cantrell got her hands on that non-public information isn't clear.
So there's still another actor out there that we don't know who it is. Whether that's Jeffery Vappie himself, whether it's a colleague or friend of Jeffery Vappie that he had to do it.
Schmidt says he hopes authorities will have answers soon. In New Orleans, Amelia Strahan, WWL, Louisiana.
A 45-page federal indictment accuses Mayor Latoya Cantrell and her former security officer.
Girl, she said, I got to get me some of that. Okay. I mean, the sad thing is that her poor husband, hopefully he never had to know what was going on. And you know what? Sometimes discreetly people have arrangements in their marriage, but damn, you know what I'm saying? Like she had a whole husband. She's the most public position in New Orleans, and she's playing in his face. You know what I mean? And Mr. Jeffery here is also married. So, and I think his wife played a part in delivering information to the powers that be to help, I'm going to say, coordinate some of these allegations. Like who better would know when you're not home, you're telling this, you're telling that, be able to have access to this, access to that. But your wife, okay? His wife collected a lot of information. Yes.
Jeffery Vappie of using his city job and her authority to bill taxpayers for his salary while on trips disguised as official work.
The reason why we have evidence is because it is supported by reality.
Prosecutors say Vappie faked timesheets and activity logs to get paid for work he didn't do, and the documents allege the mayor helped him.
This wasn't just a situation of Officer Vappie and the mayor holding hands in the back of a car on the way to an event. This is, in fact, them manufacturing trips.
Prosecutors laid out 14 trips with more than a $70,000 price tag and personal time with the mayor at a city-owned apartment. According to Raphael Goeneche with the Metropolitan Crime Commission, because of those charges, Cantrell's future travel, personal or professional, may need approval.
Even if she doesn't have her passport taken away from her, for her to leave the jurisdiction, she's going to need the permission of the court to do so.
The indictment also alleges Cantrell withheld information and lied to investigators and the public, adding she tried to sway witness testimony and hide evidence, including not handing over key records like WhatsApp messages.
There was just,
I mean, pretending to be at work and being elsewhere is grounds for, oh, okay. That's grounds for, okay. And yeah, she handled that business the way she was supposed to, because you know, I would think the first thing you're going to do is make sure that, you know, like, okay, something's weird, but I mean, the paycheck is paychecking and it seems like everything is good. You wouldn't think that your husband is sleeping with his boss. Come on. But this is happening more and more and more. And then and really and truly, you guys are having a whole entire personal relationship that begins the realm of stealing time.
so many allegations of what she did to try to hide what she was doing.
Federal documents show these charges were all connected to a romantic relationship between Cantrell and Vappie. In one piece of evidence, Cantrell sent Vappie a picture of her hand with a ring, saying, "Did you tell blank you put a ring on it?" Prosecutors say those messages raised red flags, and when questioned, Cantrell reportedly lied to a grand jury.
You really don't say anything unless you can back it up pretty definitively.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the end.
Okay, this
Now, I believe we do have Chief Investigator David Hammer
wait,
outside of federal court. David, this had to be just an incredible scene inside the courtroom. Can you describe it for us, and what more can you tell us about this indictment?
Absolutely, Katie. It was a historic moment. We have never had a sitting mayor indicted and charged with federal crimes while still in office. Obviously, we had Mayor Ray Nagin, who served from 2002 to 2010, who was indicted in 2013 and then convicted in 2014. Never before have we seen a sitting mayor. And now, of course, Mayor Latoya Cantrell has been indicted by a federal grand jury. The grand jury foreperson, Raymond Duplessis, who was the same foreperson who returned the indictment against Jeffery Vappie last year, he brought the same and brought a new indictment against both Vappie and Cantrell. That's all we know at this point. We don't have the details of the indictment. I know you and Mike have been talking about these possibilities that relate to what we already know from the Vappie indictment last year. What we do know or are pretty certain of is that this does not.
Well, and it might not even just be to keep his wife happy, but just to make it make sense. Okay, so you're gone all week. Is the paycheck adding up? You know what I mean? It's not even just the money, because, you know, she might have been blindsided and been very happy in her marriage. So maybe not necessarily the money is the happiness, but just kind of like, okay, is it making sense? You know, like, you're gone for a lot. You would expect, and then especially if you've got kids and things at the house, I mean, you're doing everything by yourself. So, but yeah, that's the first kind of like, okay, well, he's obviously at work, so everything must be panning out. But then when you find out work includes screwing your boss, that's bad. JMM, thank you for the gifts. I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that so much. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to, let me see. If you got gifted, let me know. Let's see. And if you could take a minute, double tap on your screen. If you're new here, welcome. Double tap on the screen if you are enjoying this. Hey, Joey. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I see you. Let's see. I'm scrolling back, but it's not letting me see. Let me see live chat. So I see the gifts. I just don't see who got gifted. If you got gifted, I hope you enjoy your membership. I did drop a Kiki in membership this morning, so I hope you go catch that and make sure to comment. Okay, let's get back. Where's my screen, y'all? Hold on. Okay, there's my screen. Okay.
Necessarily relate in any way to the charges that were filed last year against Randy Farrell, an inspector who was charged with bribing the mayor. That does not appear to be a part of this because it is a.
Just imagine you're living in the city and all of a sudden you're watching the news or you hear something that the mayor, that there's public official one being investigated, or there's some chatter about the mayor having an affair. And you're like, oh, well, my husband is, oh, I hope you feel better, sis. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. You guys did request a throwback, a Nesto throwback. One of you guys sent me a request, and I thought it was like time appropriate. Like, I was like, oh, this is a good one. And we're going to get into it later. So we're going to get through this. It is a 45-page indictment, so we might have to just read that later. You guys got the gist of most of it. We're going to watch the press conference, and then we'll get into the indictment. maybe tomorrow morning early, but you guys get the gist of the indictment, all the juicy details. We can get into it. It's 47 pages. And then you guys still want to do this throwback. So Sunday lip service, we'll do that a little bit later, okay? And have a kiki, okay? All right.
Attached to a new indictment of Jeffery Vappie. Again, the courtroom was packed. Everybody was getting ready to hear the regular docket in front of Magistrate Judge Ava Dossier. None of those cases were heard. It was just the prosecutors, Nick Moses and Jordan Ginsburg, and the grand jury foreperson coming in, handing up the indictment, and then they adjourned that section of the court. So it was all focused on this indictment of Mayor Latoya Cantrell.
Yeah, integral matters. It's situations like that happen. They really do. I know I had a similar situation very early in my career. A director, a senior director at a very, very, very large company, was pretty much in a extramarital affair with one of the senior managers in an area I supported, and it was just like the worst kept secret. The carrying on, the laughing, the lunches, just the knowing that something was going on, and like, oh, he's married, really? Okay. I mean, because you would just think that was his girlfriend. It was like the work wife. But yeah, those kind of things happen. Not that it's right, but it's like people playing right in your face, just like we saw the other day with that the CEO of that company who had the CHRO, or the chief people leader, whatever her title was, sitting up there at the Coldplay concert like everything was cool. And both people are married, and they are just canoodling in public with other coworkers who have kind of accepted that this type of behavior was like, even if it wasn't okay, sometimes you have to go along to get along because you got bills to pay yourself, right? So it's kind of like, well, what do I do if I say, who can I tell? This is the upper echelon of leadership. Who can I tell? There's nobody outside of this leadership team to tell, right? So it gets bad, y'all. It really does.
Historic indictment, Katie.
David, any idea if if these new charges, what they might be against Jeffery Vappie? I mean, we know that, as you mentioned, and as we've been talking about, he already has a list of charges against him. So what might these new charges be? Any idea?
All we can do is speculate.
Okay, let's flip on this because this one.
It has been a historic day in New Orleans. For the first time, a sitting mayor of New Orleans is facing federal charges. Today, a federal grand jury handed up an indictment against Mayor Latoya Cantrell and her former bodyguard, Jeffery Vappie. She faces 11 counts, including wire fraud, obstruction, and lying to a grand jury. This all centers around their alleged romantic relationship and how much it cost the city of New Orleans. The indictment alleges that for about 3 years, Cantrell manufactured opportunities to travel with Vappie to engage in personal activities at taxpayers' expense, costing the city about $70,000. And Cantrell and Vappie are accused of trying to cover up their relationship by lying, even under oath, and deleting WhatsApp messages. We've got it all covered tonight. Coming up, we are taking you.
Well, $70,000 on top of his salary, paid at an overtime rate. So just imagine he's traveling during the week or whatever, or overtime. So he's putting in for 15-hour days, and depending on how they do time, it could be overtime after 8. It could be overtime after 40. So it really just kind of depends. And at the end of the day, if y'all are in bed, or you guys are out to lunch or at a winery, you guys extended a trip to the Napa. If you're out of town, let's just also say this too. When he went out of town with her to California, to the Napa Valley, and she extended the trip a day, that's another day of stipend, hotel, changing flights, also his hourly pay that he submitted time and attendance for, and you're on a date with your boo thing. So yes, 70,000 in travel, but I'm curious, which they're going to put, it's in the indictment, of the amount of overtime and wages that were falsely paid during time that they can say that they were actually on a date, or this was not work related, but work hours were billed to the city, right?
Back to a sit-down interview in late 2023 between the mayor and investigative reporter Katie Moore. That's when Katie asked Cantrell about her compliance with investigations. Plus, we're hearing from the attorney of Ann Bro, the woman who took an infamous picture of Cantrell and Vappie at Tableau Restaurant that led to a major legal fight. And we're looking back at the highs and lows of Mayor Cantrell's political career. But first, WWL Louisiana Chief Investigative Reporter David Hammer takes us through what we've learned about the indictment today.
A federal grand jury charged New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell with conspiring with her former bodyguard, Jeffery.
Sorry, I'm still working my way through my first cup of coffee, girl. But yes, that Nappy Valley, they were in the Napa Valley, playing in the Nappy Valley. Okay, they were having a good time. Okay, yes.
Vappie.
Well, she was a side chick, and he was a side dude because she was married. Her husband passed away in 2023, but they said that this affair started in 2021. I feel sorry for the gentleman. That's sad. Mr. Jason Cantrell passed away of a heart attack. It's, you know what I mean? It makes you wonder, you know what I'm saying? Like that, baby, that's bad. That's bad.
Fraud and cover up an affair for years while both were married. That includes allegedly charging city taxpayers $70,000 for Vappie's expenses during trips.
Girl, look at the Stella drinks. They had 2 Stellas and 4 old fashions. Girl, they were getting litty. And you know what I mean? I don't know how city expenses go, but most of the time alcohol is not on the company dime, okay? Be it, you know, city, government, most of the time they're not going to pay for liquor. So the fact that these two were expensing alcohol is crazy. That was just screaming, come for me. Those are not expenses that typically get paid for, but maybe the mayor's different. I don't know. But yeah, anywho. Oh, Stella, maybe those are beers. So like Stella Artois. Okay, so they had some Stella beers, and they had 4 old fashions, girl.
Together. And Cantrell allegedly deleted thousands of WhatsApp messages and then lied to a federal grand jury under oath.
Girl, that is his journal. He keeps a journal and was writing like love poems, fantasy writing about just their love affair. I mean, that is definitely, I came home from work and all my shit was packed up. Like, he's sitting up there writing to her writing about their affair in his journal. Dear diary, yes, Latoya and I enjoyed 2 Stellas and 4 old fashions. It was a wonderful trip. Look, I'm writing in the book as I partake in an old fashioned. I'll show it to you in the indictment. Girl, they have the picture of his journal. I wonder if they got the journal.
About it. Acting U.S. Attorney Michael Simpson says this prosecution isn't about Cantrell and Vappie's alleged affair. Did you take pause at all about bringing criminal charges that at the heart are based?
Come through microphone. Okay. He made sure he had his microphone.
On a romantic relationship, especially with the first woman mayor of the city of New Orleans?
To me, it's irrelevant that it's romance or that it's female. What is relevant is that it is an incredible breach of the public trust. It's an incredible betrayal of people's confidence in their own government, and it's a violation of innumerable federal criminal laws.
Former federal prosecutor Matt Chester helped convict former Mayor Ray Nagin in 2014.
There are serious allegations in here. There are allegations of falsification of documentation to get city money. There are allegations of lying to a federal grand jury, lying to federal law enforcement. But at its core, those lies, those activities were about hiding the illicit relationship.
A 2018 state case in Tennessee also involved the first female mayor of Nashville spending the public's money on an affair with her bodyguard. An associate allegedly warned Cantrell about that in 2022, and she texted back, "Don't accuse me." David?
Baby. You know what I'm saying? You know when you got a friend who's trying to be a friend and then they get mad? That's the worst. It says, we'll have to get into this. On or about April 4th, 2022, Cantrell was told an associate, "Please don't accuse me," in response to a text message telling Cantrell it is a felony to have your lover be paid to work and to have his travel paid by the city. Girl, these days it might be sex trafficking, okay, from what we learned from Southern District of New York. Southern District of New York might have done something else, okay? That Nashville mayor had to pay back like $50,000 and serve 3 years probation. She is done. Please don't let this be your path, Latoya. That's a friend. That's a real friend to send you something like that, to risk the friendship, to tell you the truth of the matter. And the truth of the matter is, sis, you getting ready to go down, and I'm trying to help you.
Hammer, WWL, Louisiana.
Now, the mayor's indictment is a summons, so Mayor Cantrell will not be remanded into custody, but will eventually appear for an initial hearing. The Home Rule Charter says the mayor can only be removed from office if she's found guilty, but she could also choose to resign. And today's
I'll drop the links to all these videos. We're not going to do this whole one because the press conference is considerable, but I think the press conference is going to give a lot of information. So all these videos I have lined up, I'll put them in the description. They're not in the description box now, but they will be later, okay?
Everyone, and thank you for coming. My name is Michael Simpson, and I am the acting United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Louisiana.
If you want to know the synopsis of everything, scroll back to the beginning. Because I read both press releases, the one from July of 24 and then the most recent of October 25, where they've now issued the superseding indictment from the original indictment in July of 24. But it was funny. They weren't really trying to do anything with Jeffery because if you looked at his docket didn't have a court date till like January of 26. So I think they basically put that indictment placeholder there, basically, if you will, for lack of a better word. And they called her public official 1 until they were able to move forward. But I'll take a look at the docket and all of that. But we'll do that tomorrow. But let's get into this press conference. And
Anna, before we get started, though, I would like to introduce our law enforcement partners who are here with me today. Right next to me, to my left, is Jonathan Tapp, who is the special agent in charge for the FBI. Right next to him is Mr. Percy Giles, who is the assistant special agent in charge at the FBI. And next to Mr. Giles is Ms. Samira Maroney, who is the supervisory special agent that oversaw this case. Earlier today, a federal grand jury returned an 18-count superseding indictment charging New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell and former New Orleans Police Department officer Jeffery Paul Vappie II. They are charged with a series of fraud, obstruction of justice, and false statement offenses for their role in a nearly 3-year fraud scheme that we allege exploited their public authority and positions. The indictment alleges that in October of 2021, Mayor Cantrell and Jeffery Vappie, a member of her executive protection team, developed a personal, intimate relationship. From that time until Mr. Vappie's retirement in June of 2024, they embarked on a scheme to defraud the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Police Department. By exploiting Vappie's job and Cantrell's authority as mayor to have the city and the New Orleans Police Department pay Vappie's salary and expenses during the times that Vappie claimed to be on duty, but when he was actually engaged in personal activities.
He was actually engaged with that booty.
Usually with Ms. Cantrell, but sometimes alone at the Pentaba apartment. The indictment further describes the many
so
steps.
He was over at their love nest. So the love nest that is actually owned by the city. Sometimes he was there with Latoya, and sometimes he was just chillaxing, enjoying non-family, like enjoying not being at home with his wife and family at his home. He's over there at the love nest apartment, probably writing in his diary, having an old fashioned, thinking about what he's going to do with his OT and all of the things. Next time he was going to be able to be with Latoya, his boo.
And Vappie took to hide their scheme and to perpetuate their continued fraud, including using a secure messaging platform, WhatsApp. Specifically, Cantrell and Vappie used the WhatsApp platform to exchange over 15,000 messages, pictures, and audio clips in an 8-month period. They also used WhatsApp to intimidate subordinates, to harass a citizen, to lie to colleagues and associates, to delete evidence, to make false statements to FBI agents, to give the government an affidavit signed under oath that contained numerous false statements, and ultimately to commit perjury before a federal grand jury, all for the purpose of distracting and impeding inquiries and investigations into their activities, including a federal grand jury investigation. The superseding indictment, which we emphasize is merely a charge for which guilt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law, alleges that Mayor Cantrell and Mr. Vappie perpetuated their scheme both in the New Orleans area and during out-of-state trips. In both instances, Vappie's activity.
He sounds like the guy from Dateline a little bit, right? It's giving a little Chris Hansen, and it's giving a little bit of the other guy, right?
While claiming to be on duty, were conspicuously different than any other member of the Executive Protection Unit.
Well, and there was a woman in Nashville, Tennessee that had the same thing too. This happened like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And a friend messaged Latoya, like maybe this was just a bad kept secret in New Orleans, that there was just something going on or just a little extra twinkle in her eye. I mean, people know. Remember with the Simontelli situation, and the sister or the friend just came out and asked her, "Are you having an affair?" Like, she was like, "You're acting weird, girl." And she said, "Are you having an affair?" Sometimes people are so happy and so sick on that new it's obvious to your friends and family and people like, "Girl, something's going on. What's going on with you?" Okay. So yes.
While in New Orleans, Cantrell and Vappie treated a city-owned apartment in the Pentaba building as their own personal shared residence.
Yes, the super mayor. Yes, the city girl mayor. Yes.
And
it's coming.
To spend time together there, engaging in personal activities, all while Vappie claimed to be on duty for the Executive Protection Unit and was being paid to do his actual job. The superseding indictment also alleges that Mayor Cantrell and Vappie arranged for Vappie to accompany Cantrell on at least 14 domestic and international trips to maximize their time together and to engage in personal activities. In their private text messages, Mayor Cantrell characterized her trips with Vappie as both, quote, times when we are truly alone, close quote, and as what, quote, spoils me the most. These trips included a trip to San Francisco, which Vappie and Cantrell decided to extend for an extra day so that they could visit a series of Napa Valley wineries. While Vappie was wine tasting on April the 9th, 2022, he claimed to be working and was in fact paid for working a 15-hour day. In August 2022, Cantrell said that she would, quote, unquote, make it happen, to have Vappie accompany her on a 3-day trip to Washington, D.C. for a 1-hour meeting, a trip that they both agreed they, quote unquote, needed. Shortly after they returned, Vappie described the trip to Cantrell as, quote, another leg on our journey, close quote, as he declared his love for her and their physical relationship. In total, the city of New Orleans paid over $70,000 for Vappie's travel on these trips alone. When asked about her reason for bringing members of the Executive Protection Unit with her on out-of-state trips, a practice that Mayor Cantrell began about 5 months after Vappie joined the Executive Protection Unit, she justified it as a quote-unquote pivot due to COVID and a matter of safety, in quotes. At the same time, however, she continued to take out-of-state trips without any EPU protection or Executive Protective Unit protection. In fact, on the same day, she gave one such statement. She canceled a work trip to Miami and instead traveled alone by plane, then bus, then ferry to the island of Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts to spend some time with Vappie. Vappie was in Martha's Vineyard attending a conference paid for by the city of New Orleans related to his position on the Hanno Board of Commissioners, a position to which Cantrell had appointed him just months earlier. On other occasions, when Vappie was unavailable to accompany Cantrell on a trip, Cantrell chose not to take another member of the Executive Protection Unit with her. The superseding indictment alleges that both Vappie and Cantrell were aware that their conduct broke laws, criminal laws. For instance, in April 2022, an associate of Cantrell's explicitly told her in multiple text messages that spending public funds and using public resources for her personal relationship was illegal.
I'm telling you, reading these long documents can produce a thirst. Okay. Let me just say this. There is let me tell you guys this. Divorce filing alleges Mayor Cantrell had extramarital affair with NOPD officer. New Orleans. Okay, a source tells Fox 8 a new court filing accuses New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell of having an extramarital affair with a member of her security team. The wife of New Orleans police officer Jeffery Vappie filed an amended divorce petition earlier this month. This was January 2023. It claims that in November 2022, she became aware of an inappropriate relationship between her husband and a woman identified in court documents as Mrs. L.C. The source tells Fox 8 that Mrs. L.C. refers to Latoya Cantrell. Rafael Goyeneche, president of the Metropolitan Crime Commission, said the court filing raises ethical and potentially criminal concerns for both Cantrell and Officer Vappie. I think this divorce petition basically raises several ethical, potentially criminal issues for Officer Vappie, and the mayor is caught in the crosshairs of all of this. In the filing, Vappie's wife claims her husband has been in an ongoing sexual relationship with Mrs. L.C. since May of 2021. That's the same month Vappie joined Cantrell's executive protection team, and also cites specific dates of August and September of 2022 when the alleged affair took place. It indicates August 2nd, 2022. Fox previously reported that on the day of a public security camera in front of the city-owned Upper Pontalba apartment showed Vappie spent 5 hours and 40 minutes of his workday inside the apartment with the mayor. In the petition, Vappie's wife says her husband admitted to adulterous affair with her. Goyeneche, I'm probably pronouncing this wrong. Goyeneche said in a relationship between Vappie and Cantrell could violate several NOPD policies, and if Vappie's supervisors were not aware. Well, involvement in a romantic relationship with one of his assigned duties. Professionalism, performance of duty, adherence to the law, and honesty and truthfulness. Goyeneche said that even more severe violations could be found if Officer Vappie wasn't doing the work expected of him by the police. It depends on what type of work he was putting in. If he was putting in that back work, then it's a problem, right? Department during the time he was on the clock. Potential payroll fraud, right? If he was on city time padding his payroll, if he was malfeasant in office, he wasn't performing his official assigned duties, et cetera, et cetera. And if there are federal violations involved, it could be wire fraud because he put in timesheets for time he may not have actually been working. Okay? Bad. All terrible, bad behavior. Okay? All right, let's get back to over here. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna bookmark this particular article because there's a video attached to it with the divorce document, the Vappie's divorce. I don't know if the Vappie's divorce is final or not, but baby, okay, all right.
When Vappie and Cantrell learned that the news media,
you said come through Stanley Cup,
investigating their time together.
Stanley Cups handle that thirst, don't they?
In the Pontalba, they agreed amongst themselves to be quote unquote straight and together. Days after the first news stories broke in November of 2022, Vappie conducted numerous online searches for New Orleans area attorneys who specialize in the practice of criminal law. And he researched WhatsApp's security features. But the defendant's wire fraud scheme nevertheless continued all the way until Vappie's retirement in June of 2024. As alleged in the superseding indictment in July 2023, the grand jury issued subpoenas to both Vappie and Cantrell, compelling the production of records. The FBI also interviewed Vappie, and during the interview, Vappie lied about the nature and circumstances of his relationship with Cantrell. In response to the subpoena, Cantrell produced a selection of responsive records, but none of the over 15,000 WhatsApp messages that she had exchanged with Vappie. Cantrell also created an affidavit, sworn under oath, that in 2021 she had activated a feature on her phone that automatically deleted messages. In support of that statement in her affidavit, Cantrell submitted a screenshot of her iPhone showing WhatsApp messages were set to delete in 24 hours. But in fact, Cantrell did not turn on that feature until December the 26th, 2022, roughly 1 month after the news media began speculating on her conduct. Moreover, this automatic deletion or quote unquote disappearing messages feature only applied to new messages. During roughly the same period, Cantrell also manually deleted thousands of her prior WhatsApp messages with Vappie. As alleged, even at the time that Cantrell responded to the grand jury subpoena, she still possessed more than 50 pictures, including screenshots of correspondence with Vappie that were responsive to the subpoena, but which she nevertheless concealed from the grand jury. On his own, Vappie conducted online searches concerning WhatsApp and its security level, and by which time several people had already warned Vappie and Cantrell that their conduct was illegal. The indictment further alleges that Vappie and Cantrell continued their pattern of obstruction through the rest of 2023 and 2024.
Let me just say something too, just to put it out there. And I'm sure a lot of you, if you're here, you already know, but some people are new and some people may not be aware. But when you play in these people's apps, when you want to send, even if it's not your good regular social media handle, I'm gonna just say it like that, your regular social media handle is some old play social media handle. Okay. When you go up in these people's inboxes, baby, it's all about an IP address. Okay. It's all about what they can trace back to who, what, and where. So people think they're being cute, deleting messages. They think they're being cute, being covert, and all of the things. Baby, when the appropriate agencies want to trace back the who, what's, and where's, telephones, computers, IP addresses, providers, phone numbers, all of the things, baby, all that stuff is traceable. Okay. It's one of those don't start none, won't be none. Okay. Anywho, let's keep going.
Obstruction included improperly pressuring the interim superintendent of the New Orleans Police Department to overrule findings of an internal investigation into Vappie's conduct. When the interim superintendent did not heed that directive, Cantrell ordered the interim superintendent to nevertheless reassign Vappie back to her protection detail. Months later, in a meeting that Vappie attended, Mayor Cantrell informed the interim superintendent that the interim superintendent would be replaced. Similarly, when a private citizen took pictures of Mayor Cantrell and Vappie together in public, dining and consuming alcohol al fresco, while Vappie reported to be on duty, Cantrell filed a police report and sought a restraining order against that citizen. This indictment does not allege that a relationship constitutes a crime. It also does not allege that the criminal activity occurred.
I think at this point he's reading some sort of a speech, some sort of synopsis regarding the matter. They're going to get into a question and answer session in a second. Well, also instigating, you know what I mean? Like, did we not, if you hadn't watched it, Sheila Agee, we watched that 2 weeks ago, her and her stupid ass son. Okay. Emotional, stupid ass son. She basically instigated a whole entire situation and ma'am got LWOP. Okay.
On merely a handful of discrete days, or that the behavior was limited to a small series of discrete actions. Rather, it reflects the prosecution of two public officials alleged to have engaged in a years-long continuing fraud scheme that used public money for personal ends by exploiting their power and their authority. The superseding indictment alleges that they perpetuated that fraud scheme by taking steps to keep individuals silent, to deceive subordinates, and to obstruct investigations into their relationship, including one conducted by a federal grand jury. I'd like to make several things clear, if I may. First, my office remains steadfast in its commitment to rooting out public corruption in any form without fear or favor within the Eastern District of Louisiana. And by the term public corruption, I mean public officials exploiting their positions and their power for their own personal gain. Public officials should be in their jobs to serve the public and not themselves. To do otherwise is a breach of the trust that undermines the public's faith and trust in their own government. Second, this investigation remains ongoing, and I would encourage anyone with information to come forward and to do so quickly. They can do so by contacting the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at fbi.gov, submit a tip.
Okay, let's pivot over here real quick. Like I said, everything in this playlist, I'm gonna put the links to for y'all. If you want to see everything in total. This let's go over here real quick because this was interesting, baby.
Of having an extramarital affair with a former member of her security team.
Yeah, Crime Watchdog says the filing rate.
Not crime watchdog.
At the office investigations as a court filing accuses Mayor Latoya Cantrell of having an extramarital affair with a former member of her security team.
Yeah, Crime Watchdog says the filing raises ethical and potentially criminal issues for Cantrell and the NOPD officer. Here's our latest outside the office investigation.
The wife of NOPD officer Jeffery Vappie filed an amended divorce petition this month, claiming in November of last year.
And this was in 2023, this report, but it's relevant because all of this has now come full circle. So just get into it. If you were wondering what happened, I read the article, but this is the actual corresponding video.
Here, she became aware of an inappropriate relationship between Vappie and someone she calls Mrs. LC. A source confirms that is New Orleans Mayor Latoya Cantrell.
So I think this divorce petition basically raises several ethical and potentially criminal issues for Officer Vappie. And the mayor is caught in the crosshairs of all of this.
In the divorce filing, Vappie's wife says her husband has been in an ongoing sexual relationship with Cantrell since May of 2021. That's when Vappie joined her executive protection team. The filing says Cantrell and Vappie engaged in a sexual relationship and cites specific dates in August and September of last year. Most of those dates detailed in a series of outside the office reports. For example, the petition mentions August 2nd. On that date, a security camera in front of the city's Upper Puntaba apartment shows Vappie spending 5 hours and 40 minutes of his workday inside the apartment with the mayor. In the petition, Vappie's wife says her husband confirmed to her that he was involved in an adulterous affair with Mayor Cantrell.
And then that's the moment Miss Danielle needed to tell him to go ahead and pack up and go.
Vappie, this relationship could violate several NOPD policies.
Well, involvement in a romantic relationship with one of his assigned duties, professionalism, performance of duty, adherence to law, and honesty and truthfulness.
But the head of the Metropolitan Crime Commission says the potential violations for Vappie could be even more severe if during time he was paid by taxpayers, he wasn't doing work expected of him by the police department.
Okay, so potentially payroll fraud. If he was on city time, padding his payroll, if he was malfeasant in office, he wasn't performing his official assigned duties while he was with the mayor, those are potential state violations. And if there are federal violations involved in it, it could be wire fraud because he put in timesheets for time that he may not have actually been working. There may be a program fraud because federal funds were used to fund city government and the police department. And if he wasn't doing his assigned responsibilities during those times, those are potential federal violations. And the mayor is potentially a principal to all of that.
Goyeneche says the mayor also might have violated city policy and is the FBI.
Goyeneche, okay, I had it pretty much correct. Okay, Goyeneche.
Inspector General and Police Department.
City of New Orleans Chief Administrative Office. Okay, so they put out a memo just kind of reminding everybody like, okay, y'all, this is okay. We need everyone to read this and sign off. Okay. You know how you get that random memo that we need to update this annually, or we have just updated some of our policy. Please make sure to read it. Go into the portal, read it, put your initials and sign, please, that you are aware. You know, y'all might get one on Monday. Okay. When you have to recertify that you are aware of the policies.
Department investigate these and other allegations. Goyeneche says it's possible the violations by the mayor could be even more severe.
She is the chief elected official in the city of New Orleans. She knows full well that officers are supposed to be performing their duties. And
Not the
she
booty.
is essentially Officer Vappie's assignment. So if she is having him come visit her,
Not the
and this
fisheye
petition
lens.
talks about dates, and the videos that you have of Officer Vappie coming and going from that Pontabla building, and none of the other officers were coming and going from that. Those are all indications of potential payroll fraud, malfeasance in office, and there's the corresponding federal violations that could apply to those.
Did she not know that there was a whole entire fisheye surveillance camera on the city-owned apartment that the mayor has access to? I mean, that would make sense, right? Because you want to protect your top elected official and also the property of the city, of the municipality, right? Would she was not aware that they could be watching or filming those doors at any moment? That's weird that she was like, maybe they just thought like, ain't nobody looking at us.
Same factual circumstances there.
For the mayor too?
Absolutely.
So the mayor could have some criminal, questions raised with her here, potentially.
I believe so. I believe so.
You've been around politics a long time.
Yes.
Have you ever seen something quite like this?
No, this is completely different.
Rosalind Blanco Cook worked in the communications department for former mayors Mark Morial and Ray Nagin and the RTA. She now teaches a class at Tulane. She says a relationship with a subordinate is improper in any line of work.
Typically in corporations,
Period.
companies, even sometimes mom and pop operations, it's very touchy about having relations or starting dating a subordinate.
Cook thinks most New Orleanians will be upset to find out about allegations of the mayor's relationship with a subordinate, as the two spent hours together in a city-owned apartment during the workday.
I think that the majority do not like it. They sort of like, what's next? They don't like the idea that perhaps first, as you mentioned, with the subordinate, and then also the idea that she's not putting in the time that she should be putting in.
The divorce filings say Vappie and his wife have lived separate and apart since November 10th, 2022. That's the day after our first story on Vappie and Cantrell ran. Goyeneche thinks investigators might want to speak to Vappie's wife to determine her knowledge of their relationship and to get a better understanding of what they were doing while the two spent hours together outside the office.
On the dates that she alleges, while he is being paid, if he is not doing
city business,
that is a potential criminal violation?
I believe it is.
And
I think it's malfeasance in office because he's being paid for not performing his official duties.
And is that a violation for the mayor potentially too?
I think that makes her a principal to it because she's the chief officer for the city of New Orleans. And she's not doing her official duties either.
We reached out to the mayor's office for a response to the filing, but did not hear back.
I mean, of course. You think, oh, hey, we heard you wanted to talk to us about an affair. Hello?
Vappie was removed from the mayor's security team as our series of investigative reports aired. I do want to take a moment to further explain our decision-making process for airing this report. We found out about the initial divorce filing back in November. Despite the fact that it is a public document, we made an editorial decision not to report on it then because we felt it was a personal issue. However, that changed with this new filing since it alleges a sexual relationship between the mayor and her subordinate, a violation of city policy.
Okay, we're not just being messy. We have a reason because it's bad. Okay, we get it. Yeah. I mean, they initially sat on the story because they were trying purposefully not to seem like they're being messy and engaging in gossip. But now that it really traces back to crimes, albeit white collar crimes, they're still crimes against the city and the state. And they have a responsibility to report them now, right? Okay, let's look at this real quick and then I'm gonna let y'all go. This was a timeline that was published. When was this published? I just thought it was interesting. So this is a relationship timeline. Okay. All right. Below is a timeline of what is known about the alleged romantic relationship of Mayor Latoya Cantrell and her former New Orleans police officer, Jeffery Vappie, based on documents, news reports, and recent federal indictment charging Vappie. So this was from last year. Let me make sure y'all can see this well. Okay. Number one. Okay. So 2021, Vappie joins the mayor's security detail. That's May 23rd. June 2nd, the feds raid the home of Fuad Zayton, a Cantrell supporter, as well as Magnolia Mansion, a business Zayton owns. They seize Zayton's phone. September 2021, Vappie begins accompanying Cantrell on out-of-town trips. At least 14 are eventually taken. November 2021, a romantic relationship between Vappie and Cantrell begins, according to prosecutors. 2022, March 3rd, Vappie does Google searches on Nashville mayoral scandal per his indictment. This is the mayor of Nashville, and she was engaged in a situation with her bodyguard. This combination of photos provided by Metropolitan Nashville Police Department shows Nashville Mayor Megan Barry left and her former bodyguard, retired Police Sergeant Robert Forrest. Barry resigned Tuesday, March 6, 2018, after pleading guilty to cheating the city out of thousands of dollars as she carried on an affair with Forrest. March 22, Cantrell appoints Vappie to the Housing Authority of New Orleans Board. March 31st, Vappie searches what was Whitney Houston's character's name in The Bodyguard. June 21st, Vappie leaves romantic note for Cantrell in Our Book, a notebook where the pair left messages for one another. September 25 to October 3rd, Cantrell and Vappie allegedly leave one another anonymous amorous voicemails, and that's their book. So they're sharing a journal and they're writing love notes to each other, and he is sipping on what appears to be an old fashioned. A letter allegedly sent by Vappie, Mayor Latoya Cantrell's former bodyguard, to the mayor on June 2022 that included in federal prosecutor's indictment of Vappie and wire fraud false statements charges on July 19th, 2024. November 9th, news reports break about Cantrell and Vappie spending time together in the Upper Pontalba apartment. Vappie is reassigned. November 10th, Vappie's wife, Danielle Vappie, files for divorce. November 12th, Jeffery Vappie searches how secure is WhatsApp, according to the indictment. 2023, January 4th, Fox 8 reports a federal investigation into Cantrell has expanded. Danielle Vappie alleges her husband had an extramarital affair with Cantrell. Late May, early June, Vappie alleges contacts interim NOPD superintendent Michelle Woodfork. This is Michelle right here. Okay. With Miss Cantrell in the back. Vappie allegedly contacts interim NOPD superintendent Michelle Woodfork and asks her to clear him of disciplinary charges stemming from an internal investigation. Woodfork formally upholds the internal investigation's findings that Vappie violated policies on timesheets and professionalism, earning him letters of reprimand. He is reassigned to the executive protection unit. June 22nd, Vappie starts working again for the mayor's protection team. July 14th, FBI interview Vappie at his house for over an hour. August, Vappie is promoted in rank to senior police officer. August 14th, the mayor's husband, Jason Cantrell, dies of a heart attack, 55 years old. Early September, consent decree monitors the federal judge hold 3-day hearing on NOPD investigation into Vappie. September 11th, Cantrell tells Woodfork she will not become superintendent with Vappie in attendance. Ooh. So Woodfork upheld the reprimand. Cantrell clearly was salty about it. And she tells the superintendent or acting interim superintendent in front of Vappie, yeah, you're not going to become superintendent. Woodfork's tenure as interim chief ends. 2024 picture is taken of Vappie and Cantrell enjoying dinner on the balcony of a French Quarter restaurant. Tableau. Vappie and his wife signed divorce papers. Vappie is taken off mayoral detail. Vappie retires from NOPD. This is June 29th. July 19th, Vappie is indicted on several counts of wire fraud for allegedly padding timesheets and one count of making false statements to the FBI. And then let's just say fast forward 2025, August 15th, a superseding indictment. I'm adding this. A superseding indictment was added, and Latoya Cantrell was formally indicted by a Eastern District grand jury on 18 counts of this and that and the third. Okay. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a problem for the city. Yeah, because the city has to handle this first, and then anyone else who has grievances because of their treatment, they can start lining up. Yeah. They can start lining up, and they'll have to do further investigations potentially of who knew what. There were people clearly warning these people that what they were doing was wrong. So people knew, and I think they were trying to go the safe route of kind of like, Latoya, you shouldn't be doing this. Latoya, what are you doing? And unfortunately, they did what they wanted to do. But yeah, there were people whose jobs were impacted because if Ms. Cantrell was trying to make a way out of no way for Jeffrey, and it was at the expense of other people, it seems like she abused her position of power to make it comfortable for her boyfriend and herself, right? So interesting. I do have the indictment. If you guys want me to read the indictment, I can. I feel like I'm better at doing that early in the morning, and we're almost going to be at 2 hours. It's like 47 pages. I'm going to finish reading it because I'm only like 10, 11 pages in. So I'm going to finish reading it, and I'll have more of like a summary. And if you guys want to go through a whole reading of it, because it is kind of juicy, and it does have pictures and all of the things. If you guys want to read that, we can do that like sometime in the morning tomorrow. But yeah, this is an ongoing situation. This is on some can't stop, won't stop now. This is trouble. This has been brewing for a long time, obviously. But now they're ready to take her down. It's unfortunate for her, but we can't look. Someone can be an awesome person, all of the things, talented, this and that. But when you forget that you can be taken down too, like at the end of the day, people tried to warn her that people were watching, they're looking, sometimes to be able to do the right thing, like whatever, come clean, not lie, all of those things. There were so many opportunities to do the right thing even after doing the wrong thing, and they did not seize that opportunity to just come clean. And now they're looking. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't have been indicted, but look at the mayor of Nashville. She admitted guilt, and she took her little behind wherever it needed to go and get out of the way, right? These two could end up with jail time trying to be cute and cover up and think that You know, he had, as a police officer, he knew what she was doing was wrong for him, right? And she knew as a public official, when you're, you know, when you she was also on city council, so I'm sure they reviewed many different types of situations prior to her becoming mayor. She knows. And also, you're in the company of other mayors, you have all kinds of ethical and all kinds of different trainings, and also as a leadership council, she knows. She's an executive officer. This is no different than being like a CEO. Being the mayor of a city is a executive leadership position, and for her, she can't say she did not know. I'm sure they have documents, they have done trainings, they tried to give her probably subtle hints and obvious hints. She had friends and colleagues tell her, sis, get out the way, stop. And she didn't want, you know what I'm saying? This is on her. So anyway, guys, make sure to hit the thumbs up for me. I will come back later. I need to get some things done around the house. So go ahead, hit the thumbs up for me. We'll come back later. One of you guys requested a throwback, and we'll get into it on some Sunday lip service. So make sure, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications, do all of the things, comment down below, tell me what you think, everything. And I will see you guys a little bit later. Okay. All right, guys. Yes. Cautionary tale on a Sunday. Okay. All right. We're going to keep up on this. You know, it's federal court, so this won't be televised, but you know, the docket will be told. And I'm quite sure there will be all kinds of reporting going on regarding this matter for the near future. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys later. Bye. I'm gonna set up the live for later on. I don't know what time. Let me just marinate on the time. It's already 1:00, but maybe like 6-ish. 6-ish. We'll do our throwback. Okay. All right. I'll see you later.